Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Freedom Marchers. How y'all doing? Give y'all a minute to get up in here so I can get this live stream going. We're gonna get into it. I meant to get into this yesterday because, of course, yesterday was the anniversary of the January 6th event. The thing that has been so talked about and hyperbolized that it's ridiculous. But we're gonna get into all that. Especially with Kamala Harris. Good morning, Habit Kai. We're gonna get into it. But do me a favor, hit that like button when you come up in the building. It is January 7th, 2022 on a Friday.
In half of a mile, sharp.
And I'm going to talk about January 6th. You understand?
South.
What about January 6th? Well, I'm going to specifically speak about January 6th, 2021, when a bunch of people, a bunch of Trump supporters, went into a building. Okay? Went into a building and was doing some stupid shit. All right? We're going to get into that. And I'm going to talk about whether or not that was a terrorist attack, an insurrection, an attack against our democracy. We're going to get into all that because I feel like it's very important. They're going to try to make this into something that it's not. They already did. Kamala Harris did. And really, anybody paying attention should be highly offended. Not really even highly offended, but what happened last year on January 6th was ridiculous, right? A bunch of people marched on the Capitol, went to the Capitol building. It was protesting, and then they decided to go up into the building. And a lot of them were let in by the popo. And some of them, I guess you could call it stormed. They climbed scaffolding, busted through windows, all this, that, and the third. Ashley, a woman named Ashley Babbitt, a veteran, she got killed by a police officer for climbing through a window. And people like AOC, they acted like their lives were in immediate danger, but they were already clear of the building. Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris sitting up here talking about we had to put up barricades to protect our lives and blah, blah, blah. And, that's what happened, man. A lot of people were upset because they felt like they were cheated. Okay, and I'm not even gonna get into how they felt like they were cheated because YouTube will strike my video, strike this live stream, and probably put me on suspension because they're retarded. But anyway, they felt a certain way about a certain event that happened in November. All right, a certain thing that ultimately resulted in somebody leading the country. You know what I'm saying? And they didn't like the outcome, so they wanted to address their grievances, right? And it started off as a little protest, and then it became it became a riot, it became a silly thing to do. But here are some things that I want to point out. I want to point out some things. The difference between what they did to the Capitol building and what they did, when they did for George Floyd, right? The riots for George Floyd. I'm gonna tell you the difference. I know some people are gonna be like, oh. A lot of people don't understand this, right? despite being a part of this country, despite going to school to learn about civics and politics, that Capitol building belongs to the people. All right, it's a public building, right? And those individuals inside of that Capitol building, you know, the Congress people, they work for us. You understand? Unfortunately, even me, because my paycheck gets distorted to pay them. We're their boss. We own the Capitol building. It's ours. Despite what laws and restrictions and all this shit they place on these buildings, or you can't just come in, you gotta go through security. Like, look, the bottom line is, somehow the people that are supposed to be working for us, that's supposed to represent us, they got it in their mind that we work for them, that we're their children. They're our rulers. They got it in their mind that they don't work for us, that they can do what they want, say what they want, put in whatever laws they want, use law enforcement to enforce whatever they want to enforce, and we're supposed to shut up and just take it, right? Now, I don't give a hot damn about a president. I don't give a hot damn about a vote. None of that. I'm just explaining how it's supposed to work, right? And you're supposed to have consent of the governed. And guess what? Those individuals that went up to the Capitol building and walked inside and climbed inside and things like that, smeared the boo-boo on the walls, whatever they did in there, any damage they caused is going to be paid by who? Us, the taxpayer. Not the Congress people, not the Capitol Police. We pay for it. Everything that gets done there, we pay for it. Whether we want to pay for it or not. Whether we want things to be fixed or not. It's supposed to be consent of the governed. Yet, those people, they did not give their consent to be governed. So they went up there and they said, this is not how it's supposed to work. This is not what we want. It's just they're caught up in this left-right paradigm lie. They're caught up in the cognitive dissonance. So they don't really understand how to really show that they don't consent to being governed, right? So this is all they know how to do. This is what most people know how to do. When they don't feel like the government is doing what they want them to do, or that the government is being oppressive, what they know how to do is protest, riot. They don't know how to do things in an efficient and progressive manner. They're not going to do the things that are really going to get us freedom and all that other shit, because at the end of the day, they really do want rulers. They're statists. They want to put, and when you're a statist, you put the state over the freedom of the people, right? And even though they just didn't want those particular rulers to be in charge of the state, they wanted their own ruler, Donald Trump, to be the ruler of the state, right? That's what they wanted. They wanted their Republicans and their conservatives. And that's where you have a problem, because you're still trying to operate within a system that you feel screwed you over to help you and get you free of what's supposed to be, or get you free of the chains. When Donald Trump, y'all relied on Donald Trump to do that, but Donald Trump didn't do anything either, right? As a matter of fact, thanks to him, we're in a position now that many of us are forced to get injections in order to go to work, in order to do whatever we feel like we want to do, thanks to Donald Trump. But the point is this thing, Kamala Harris and many others would like to call what happened on January 6, 2021, a terrorist attack, an insurrection, when we know that's not what it was, right? It was a protest that turned violent, relatively violent, not super violent, and some people got hurt, some people died. The only person that died as a result of what happened there was Ashley Babbitt. Those police officers died later. They tried to act like, oh, well, the police officers died because of that. No, they just happened to be on the brink of dying anyway. Kamala Harris compared what happened on January 6, 2021. She tried to throw it in the same realm of 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. Okay? That's what she's trying to liken it to. Pearl Harbor and 9/11, where thousands of people died from a strategic attack, a strategic, geopolitically driven attack, a deliberate one that was meant to take lives. You know what I'm saying? It was a declaration of war. Now, what happened on 9/11? You know, I'm not even going to get into what really happened in 9/11. I'm just going by what they want us to believe happened on 9/11. So we're going to go with that for right now. That was basically a declaration of war, right? It was an attack. You know, property was destroyed. 3 whole buildings were destroyed. Thousands of lives taken. Pearl Harbor, same shit, right? It was an attack. Bombs, the kamikaze pilots slamming their airplanes into ships. You know what I'm saying? It was complete and utter destruction. But you want to go ahead and throw January 6th in there with it? You know what I would liken that to? If I was going to throw anything in there that could be even close to be closely related to 9/11 or Pearl Harbor, is what happened, in Waco. Y'all remember that? In Waco, when the ATF and the FBI and all them, they descended upon the Branch Davidians and killed 27 children, killed a whole bunch of people, set their buildings on fire, set their house on fire. A blatant attack that occurred on American soil that resulted in many lives being taken. That is much more closely related or much more relevant in terms of when you talk about terrorist attacks. That was an ultimate terror attack. It just don't happen that it was the government committing a terrorist attack against a group of people that want to be let the fuck alone, right? But no. Some people walking up into a building they own to address people that work for them because they're fucking up or because you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing as a representative of the people of this country. It's idiotic. Anybody that calls January 6th, 2021 an insurrection or a terrorist attack is a fucking idiot, including the idiot Lucas. Right? Now, it's not the way I would have done things, but come on, man. It's not a terrorist attack. It was not an insurrection. But that's what we want to call it. That's what we want to call it. No, it was not even that. And never mind never mind the fact that I think it was staged anyway. Like, you can't, like, come on, man. And what happened with Ashley Babbitt? All right. When you're dealing with a bunch of scared police officers with their weapons drawn, it's not a good idea to make sudden movements, right? We know that. Because the police will shoot your ass if you move if you move a certain way. If they've been called out to a suspected crime or something like that, or if they encounter a suspect or something like that, they're going to be on edge, or they're going to have a certain mentality, right? Police officers, the way they're trained and the way that they behave during, while they're on the job, and how they're not expected to go through psychological evaluations periodically, right? Throughout their career. They're not expected to be in shape. They're not expected to go through drills that would mimic real life situations so that they can understand how to respond. They don't have to go through all that. They go through the academy, and if they want to go take any training, they have to pay for it out of their own pocket, right? They're not properly trained. We have to have that understanding when we're dealing with police officers. So I'm not saying that what happened to Ashley Babbitt was her fault. What I'm saying is we have to understand how police operate. The guy shot her for climbing through a window. And people, it's funny how shit flips. People that believe that the police are bad and that they terrorize people and that they always get away with committing murders and that they kill unarmed suspects, or they should have, people that say, oh, well, he should have shot him in the leg, or he should have waited to see how much of a threat that person was. What happened to Ashley Babbitt, they flipped that mentality, and now all of a sudden the police officer is justified. The police officer was not in any real danger of Ashley Babbitt. Yet he shot her before she even climbed through the window. If that happened on the street, right? If it wasn't the Capitol building, and if it didn't help your narrative, if it didn't perpetuate your narrative, you would have a problem with that. You would have a problem with an officer shooting an unarmed suspect for climbing over something. Because if that's justifiable, if it's justifiable to kill somebody that climbs over a barricade, just for climbing over a barricade, or for doing something that you don't want them to do, not because they're a threat to you, but because they're doing something you feel they shouldn't be doing. If that's justifiable, and let's say this Ashley Babbitt killing goes to court, and it's determined whether or not a police officer, what would justify a police shooting, right? Let's say this would be the case that could change how policing is done in this country, right? And all of a sudden, you're flipping your script. You're flipping your mentality because of the circumstances, right? Because of the circumstances surrounding the police shooting, not necessarily how the police shooting occurred, but the circumstances surrounding it, like politically. And that police officer, they go to court, and that police officer is found justified, and now you set a precedent. Let's say it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, right? And the Supreme Court is supposed to determine when a police officer is justified in shooting someone. And killing somebody. Police officer is justified by the Supreme Court, and the police officer can just kill people and shoot, with lethal force, use lethal force to stop someone from doing something they feel they shouldn't be doing, even when they're not under threat. Even when they're not under direct threat of the individual they shot, right? Now they're justified. Now you set a precedent. And police officers around the country, they're going to get that message like, look, we don't have to worry about saying we fear for our life or even prove that we actually felt like we were in fear for our life. We can just, if a person doesn't comply, we can just kill their ass. Some people don't think, man. Because, we know people like the clown shoe Lucas. He feels like that police officer was justified, which I felt was ironic, because if it was under any other circumstance, he would feel like the police officer was not justified, but that's another story. What happened on January 6th? It was not a terrorist attack. It was not an insurrection. A terrorist attack, when you commit a terrorist attack, you're trying to use violence to push a political narrative that would strike fear in the people that it affects. So that's what terrorist attacks about. Suicide bombings, airplanes into buildings. It's to send a message to the people that they're committing terrorist attacks against. And it's not necessarily the people that they killed, right? That's just how you get the message across. If I don't get my way politically, this is what's going to happen to you. That's what a terrorist attack is about. You're committing an act of violence to cause terror in the people that the violence would affect, that haven't died from it, that aren't direct casualties. So if you fly planes into buildings in the United States on purpose and cause thousands of deaths, you are sending a message to the people, to the rest of the people in the country, right? Same with Pearl Harbor. That was an act of war and a terrorist attack, just like 9/11. They did that to send a message. Japan did that, stay out of my business, or this is what's going to happen. And now the idea is to strike fear in the people, in the government, in the military, in the civilians. Strike fear so they can get what they want. That's what a terrorist attack is. You can't just throw that word around. I mean, you can, but you'd be wrong. What happened on January 6th? What? That was not... They weren't trying to strike fear. That wasn't a terrorist attack. These people didn't get their way, and they were mad about it. So they went directly to the people they felt were instrumental in screwing them over. It was a violent protest. It wasn't a terrorist attack. Because if you want to say it was a terrorist attack, then they can say the George Floyd riots were terrorist attacks. But no one's saying that. No one's saying that. And what's the difference between the George Floyd riots and the January 6th violent protests, the riots? Well, they went into a building that they own on January 6th to address people that work for them that they had an issue with, right? It just so happened that we lost the plot and forgot who's actually supposed to be in charge of this country. And it's the people, not the politicians. The politicians are supposed to represent our interests. They're supposed to work for us. They're not supposed to dictate our lives. That's not how it's supposed to work. So that's what it is. Whereas with the George Floyd riots, they didn't burn down buildings they own. They didn't destroy buildings they own. They destroyed the property and businesses of people just like them that are oppressed under the system just like them. Private property being destroyed. That's the difference. The George Floyd riots, and these were mostly white Antifa members, right? Most of the people that were committing those riots for George Floyd were white Antifa members. Let's just be real about it. They went into black neighborhoods and destroyed private businesses in black neighborhoods. So if anything, to achieve a political agenda, committing acts of violence to achieve a political agenda. And that's what it was. What's up, Kelvin Black? The Hobbycott was good. I've heard some people in England saying that anyone who is marching during George Floyd and other cases are terrorists and criminal lovers, as George Floyd had previous convictions. Well, as far as I'm concerned, George Floyd was a human being. When what happened to him, and he wasn't committing. He may have committed crimes before in his life. Hell, and he may even been on drugs, and he might have deliberately or not given that cashier a counterfeit bill. But at that moment in time, he was just a human being whose life was snuffed out by another human being. So whether he was a criminal or not was irrelevant. Anyway, I gotta get out of here. Like, share, subscribe. Hit that like button, and let's keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace.